Piano lessons for June.
I was like, I guarantee one of the kids has something going on. Lessons. I think I'll continue.
All right, 6 p.m. We'll call this regular village board meeting to order. If you'd all please join me in a moment of silence. And the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, do you have the roll, please?
Trustee Mann, Trustee Gerger, Trustee Charo,
Present.
Trustee Detmers,
Here.
Trustee Mao, Trustee Churchill,
Present.
Village President Kimsey.
Present. Public announcements this evening.
Fish fries are going good. Like to see more of these out there. Good fish, and it's all Santa approved. Oh, and looking into the future over the next few months, you're going to hear a lot about Veterans Memorial. This year is going to be the 20th anniversary, and we're going to start doing some planning on that. And Memorial bricks, I think I counted, we got room for 190 more to fill up the memorial. So that'll be the goal this year.
Excellent, thank you. Public comments on agenda topics. Ms. Judd.
I just had a few questions. I don't know what a max galaxy is. Are we stepping up into the 20th century that we spent $3,600 on? Is there anyone that would like to tell me what that is? Just out of curiosity.
Max Galaxy is our scheduling software for the sports facilities.
And then I noticed we spent another $10,000 on water investigations. We also spent that much last month, and the past several months we've done 10,000. Are we ever going to get an update on what the water investigations are? And then I noticed that voting on a new vehicle for the police department, what meeting was that discussed in? I didn't find one where it was discussed. I thought you discussed it, put it out for bid, and then voted on it. I could be wrong, just curiosity. Thank you.
All right, move on to the consent agenda. I have a motion to put the consent agenda on the table.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Miles made a motion of a second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Charo. Discussion.
One
Questions?
thing, in
Any
the
minutes?
minutes, it said that Trustee Detmers brought up his painting. It was actually Village President Kimsey.
Yes.
I read that.
So I
Please
just,
get it, that he wasn't trying to pat
he wasn't,
himself on the
but
back.
I'll take this point to say it's a very lovely painting I saw last night too. We'll just read that for the
Yeah,
minutes
thanks.
tonight.
Keep bringing it up.
For those that missed it,
It's at the library.
Trustee Detmers won the Chatham Chambers Award for the Call to Entry Art Show, and his work is on display at the Chatham Area Public
We
Library.
don't even need to discuss this any further.
From now until when?
That's the reason.
May.
Till May.
May.
Oh, that's funny.
I saw a line at the library today.
Probably.
That's actually it. So if somebody would do us a favor in next meeting, also mention that so we can
Oh, it's-
end the
All the
meeting
way through May.
for the third time.
Okay.
All right, any real discussion regarding?
That's it.
Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
Trustee Charo,
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
No old business under new business. We have an ordinance extending the hours of operation for certain holders of Class T liquor license on Sunday, March 15th, 2020. Can I have a motion to bring this to the table?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee
second.
Churchill, second by Trustee Mao. We were asked in conjunction with the grand festivities of the world's shortest St. Patrick's Day on this coming Sunday by the groups that are here on the Mulberry Block, if they could open at 10 a.m. and start serving liquor on Sunday in conjunction with that, as opposed to their noon normal start. So Before you, Attorney Mordock has drafted a 1-day, 2-hour extension, which requires a vote from you guys, so.
AJ's Tap Room and Sangamo Brewing.
Oh, now, did they make it 3 bars?
Do we need to
They are.
change this thing? What's Sangamo
Great.
Brewing's classification? They're R1T?
I can't remember. They're either a tavern or an R1.
If they're
Actually, they're-
R1, then we'll need to
Amended.
amend it.
It's only the title that it references that. They are listed by name. Oh, and they're one. I do need to know what their type is so that we can add that.
I would amend to add R1 for those 3 establishments. That way we're covered.
'Cause the name is in the ordinance.
Yeah, the operative clause mentions them by name, but
The next one.
the whereases which are brought down in the recital and which are made operative through section 1 does specify class T and TG licenses. So we would need to amend that to include R1 while maintaining just those 3 establishments.
Okay. Do I have a motion to amend this to include R1G?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charles made a motion of a second.
Second.
Discussion regarding the amendment. Hearing none, a vote on the amendment.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Sorry I missed that.
Further discussion.
I'll support this, but I'd also, look at, do we want to just do this permanently?
Sounds like you're volunteering to head the Blue Ribbon Committee on revising the liquor code of the Village of Chatham.
Just changing the hours.
So greatly is appreciated.
Any interest?
We have a few things, periodically we start to roll through. We just did it with the customer service manual where we start looking at that. This one's on the list to review our liquor licensing provisions, see if there's any changes, but we'll note that that is one of the things. And as a trustee who is responsible for creating the policy with which the village operates under, feel free to start drafting it anyway.
And Greg, you made Jeff.
And how often do you draft them, or does the attorney?
Oh, you would be.
Well, I think when Jeff was still here, I thought he had somebody at his place taking a look at that and trying to go through and make sure that we didn't have redundancies or things were omitted. So
I can check.
see if they had started on something, okay?
All right. Further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, on the amended ordinance.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Mao. Yes. Trustee Churchill.
Yep.
Item 2 is an ordinance enacting and adopting a supplement to the Code of Ordinances for the Village of Chatham. Have a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Demers made a motion. Have a second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Charo. This accepts the changes that our online publishing company has made on our codified ordinances that appear online. So all the stuff that we have passed over the last years, they've incorporated into that. They send back the schedule of the changes. Attorney Mordock has reviewed them and is recommending passage.
Just for everyone's edification, how often are those posted after they're passed?
They do it once a year.
We do it once a year.
You do it once a year. This actually asking us to pass an ordinance to accept their changes is relatively new procedure from their perspective, but it makes sense that they want to.
People would submit them. They'd miss that there was a mistake, and then they come back and want them to change stuff during mid-year. This way, you're looking at it, you're reviewing it, and they're trying to get everything taken care of at once. So,
Good. All right. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote?
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee
Yes.
Detmer. Trustee Mao. Yes. Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Item 3 is a resolution approving the purchase of a 2019 Police Interceptor sedan from Morrow Brothers Ford, Inc. Have a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Mao has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Detmers. Chief has provided you with the details of the bid, the recommendation for the purchase. Any further discussion or questions for the chief? He is with us tonight. Loves to talk.
there was a question earlier about this not being in discussion. Usually items that are in the budget and we have the money for it and we're ready to purchase, I don't usually take and bring it to you guys at the committee of the whole. It was already in the budget. When you accepted the budget, I assumed you accepted the car. All we had to do was send out and get bids, and we got the bids for it, so,
That's the way I understood it as well.
yeah.
That we were going to be making this purchase, and it's also decommissioning an the oldest vehicle, and all the vehicles are over 105 or over 100,000 miles, and so this will replace the oldest.
Any further discussion?
Thank you to the chief for all the information. It's helpful. I know trustee Gerger brought up the issue of not being up before, but appreciate all the information from the chief.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, very detailed.
Charo,
Yes.
trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Additional public comments on village business. Ms. Chadwick again?
Oh, I thought that was for the committee as a whole.
It can be. We'll put you there. Any other comment this evening? Unless somebody checks, because we still have time. Gordon from the U.S. Census is with us this evening. He's going to make a presentation under village manager comments of the committee of the whole. Let's go ahead. It is village business, so we'll do it under this portion now. So, Mr. Wyman, if you'd like to come up and introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Gordon Wayman. I'm with the U.S. Census Bureau, which is part of the United States Department of Commerce.
I don't think the microphone's on.
Okay.
Wasn't on when I.
It's on.
Yes, can you hear me now? Okay. My name is Gordon Wayman. I'm a partnership specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. And my job is to go around and talk to the different communities, the local governments, different organizations, and have you help us partner with you so we have a good census count. I think you realize how important the census is because the census count, we determine how many people we have in the U.S. Congress by the census count, and also all of the federal and state and local funding is all determined by the count. So it's very important that we get the most accurate count possible, because when you have people that do not fill out the survey, then you lose money every year, and it's for a 10-year period. So the census is every 10 years. So actually the census is here now. You could go, it went online yesterday, kind of a silent opening. The official day for the census is April 1st, and you can fill out your census as my2020census.gov, and you go online and then you can fill out the census that way. This year, starting on the 12th of this month, which is Thursday, through the 20th, everybody in the United States will receive a letter in the mail inviting you to participate in the census. And this is the first year that we will do it through the internet. So each letter will have a unique code, and the code will allow you to go to the internet, my2020census.gov, and enter that code, and your address will populate, and you will be able to fill out the census. Now, we will be sending different reminders for people who do not respond to the census. There'll be 6 total letters, counting the first one, from March 12th through the end of April. Now, by April 8th, if you do not respond to the census online, we will actually send you a paper survey for you to complete. So if anyone doesn't want to do it online, they can do it through a paper survey. So what we need to do is to get the word out to everybody how important it is to make certain that everybody completes the census, to make certain that everybody understands how important it is for the community. It's very safe. The data that we only ask 9 questions, and it's basically how many people live in your household, what are your ages, their names, their date of birth, and their relationship between each other within the household. We also ask if you own your home or you rent your home, and what nationality you are and ethnic background. So all the questions are required by law by the U.S. government, and all the answers are protected by Title 13. So it's all safe and secure. It's not given to any other federal agency. It's not given to any other government or local government agency. And the information you submit cannot be used against you in any way. So it's very safe. It's only for statistical purposes, and it stays confidential for 73 years. At 73 years, it will then be released to the public, and it would become a part of the National Archives and can be used for research for family trees and that sort of information. So Basically, the main reason I'm here is for you to partner with us. I know that I talked with the village president, and he's had a program for the schools, so the schools can hand out something for the students to bring home to their parents. We have different events in the library. I believe in Chatham, we already have an event scheduled for April 6th, I believe, at the library to have people come to the library to fill out the census there. For those who may not have internet access or may have questions about it. And again, you can go to our website, my2020census.gov. You can fill it out. If you do not have your code, there's a box you can click on there. I do not have the code, and you would then basically just put in your mailing address, and it will populate. Are there any questions anybody may have?
This is helpful. Thank you.
Okay. There's a lot of materials in there. If you need me for anything, let me know. I live in Springfield, so I'm not far away, and I'll be helping any way we can to make certain we get a count. There's also a link in there where you can track your progress. So this is the first year that you will be able to track and see how many people are responding in Chatham. So you can go to that website on the first page there. On the right side of your folder is some information about how to do that. Okay? Thank you.
Certainly appreciate your time. And we can't, as a village, can't stress enough the importance of getting a complete and accurate count in our residents. A big portion of our general revenue fund, which is the fund that takes care of our police department, our administration, and our roads, is based on that count. They're formula-driven funding that we get from the state. And I always like to remind people that in those formulas, this is the one time where you have an opportunity to bring the income tax that you are remitting to the state of Illinois back into your community. The local government distributive fund is an income tax-based fund that has redistributed portions of it back to the communities. And what's the estimated number, Sherry? Do you remember the dollar figure for next year? Between it and the motor fuel tax fund, which is also based on our population count, it's about $180 per person every single year that we get. And to put that in perspective, for the last 9 years, heading into our 10th year, Chatham has been funded based on a population count of 11,500, which is what you see on the sign as you come in here. The 2018 census estimate had Chatham's population at about 12,600. In the last year, we added over 100 new utility customers within a year. So we know that we're supporting a population and a much greater population than what we're getting funded for on this. And so this is our opportunity to be thorough, to be accurate, to make sure that everybody in town is counted, responds to the census, because that drives what we do for the next 10 years. So very important. I appreciate our partners that we've got with the school district and with the library, with the Census Bureau. They're helping to get this word out and talk about the importance of the U.S. Census. So Gordon, certainly appreciate you coming down here tonight and sharing your information with us. Schedule of meetings, the Planning Commission is 6 p.m. on March 19th. Village Board will meet 6 p.m. on March 31st. Remember, that's a week later than normal. Utility Oversight Subcommittee, 6 p.m. on April 13th. Village Board again, April 14th at 6, and the Committee of Whole follows 6:15. No need for closed session board meeting, so I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Scherschel has made a motion, second by Trustee Charo. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting stands adjourned. You need a motion to make
Oh, I'll make that
Chairman
motion.
Mao.
Before we begin, we need a motion for a chairman, since Brett is not here. Trustee Charo, did you have a motion to make?
Are we making a motion to Matt? You want to do this?
Yeah, there's a motion to make me chairman of the meeting. Can the clerk please call the roll on that?
Trustee Charo,
Yes.
trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Mao,
Yes.
trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to call the committee of the whole meeting to order. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Trustee Charo,
Present.
trustee Detmers.
Here.
Trustee Mao,
Here.
trustee Churchill.
Here, present.
First item on the agenda is the public comments on agenda topics. Terry Hupp. Committee of the whole?
Yeah, no one second.
Yeah, point of order, I don't know if it's going to be a problem to run a second on that motion, just
For the chair.
for the chair. I don't know if that's an issue.
Would you like to second that?
Yeah, we should do it right, I'm just saying. Mr.
Got it.
Chairman?
Should I make the motion over again?
No.
Like redo it? Trustee Mao.
You'd like to reaffirm.
Okay, reaffirm. I did say Matt, I did.
Mr. Hunt?
I got it.
Yep, yep.
Hi, I was here a few weeks back. My name is Terry Hupp. My neighbor and I, at the time, had voiced some concerns with the potential location of a dog park in West Side Park. I know that there was a meeting last night that was held. I wasn't able to attend, but I think the Public Property and Recreation Committee met, and that their recommendation and target forward would still be the use of West Side for the proposed dog park. I had heard that it was stated that the same concerns that we've addressed would be addressed no matter what site was chosen. And I think that may be true, but I think those concerns and issues, as I stated last time, are a lot less likely if we would choose a location that is not surrounded by houses. I know that this has been kicked around for a while, and there's been a lot of meetings, and there's been a lot of discussion on it already. I would think there's probably not a lot of appetite to continue this and continue discussions and look at alternative locations. But I want to make this short and just ask the board that, you know, it's the next few weeks that you do make your final vote and your decision on this, that you not just make the easy decision, that you make the best one. So I thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Darlene, did you have something else?
At the end.
Okay. Consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, February 11th?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charles made a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
And will the clerk please take the roll?
Is there any discussion?
Any discussion?
No, we just made a minor change today, just clarifying, so thank you for making it so fast, Amy.
It's over.
But they're good now online.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
You see no new or no old business, new business, CMT engineering updates.
Okay, good evening. I have a couple of items here to discuss. First one is Spartan Subdivision, Spartan Sports Park. An item that will be coming to your attention here in upcoming meetings that will be presented at the next Planning Commission will be the subdivision of a portion of Spartan Sports Park. What is happening there is there's going to be a sale of the sports park itself, the ball diamonds. That's been separated out and wanting to be sold separate from the remainder of the parcel. Remainder of the parcel is still intended to be commercial at some point, but with the developed parcel being sold separately. Initially, the owner of the property, Christopher Philakis, they had proposed doing a landlocked parcel with ingress, egress easements associated with that. We've worked through with the county plat officer, Greg, myself, and Pat have discussed this at length in terms of what's best for the village in the future, because it is an established business right now, what is best for the potential buyers of this property, and what's best for the sellers of the property. So because of the, I guess, vagaries associated with the sale of a landlocked parcel, there are some things that we requested associated with that. And we've worked through a lot of those details that will be presented at the next Planning Commission. You know, one of them is alternate access, dedicated alternate access. Initially, it's going to be planned that they'll continue to have their access off of Gordon Drive as is, but as part of the sale, the parking lot and drive does not go with the business facility. So that was a strong concern of ours. Should there be a subsequent sale of other parts of the remaining parcel, that doesn't accompany with the actual business that's established there now. So there will be a flag lot created out of this parcel that will provide direct access back to Woodland Trail, but that will be more so for semantic purposes, in the fact that the driveway parking will work as is. That'll be drafted out into easement agreements or use agreements associated with this parcel division. Also, utilities will be considered as well, because there is one master service associated with the electric, with the water, with the sewer out there as well, that services this landlocked parcel and has to cross over adjacent parcels. So a lot of this on this knee-jerk reaction to sell was not thought out on how the remainder of the parcel was going to be split out in the future. Way back when this was all conceived in the development, residential development in the back, a preliminary plan was drafted, never formally submitted. So there is a general layout of what might be there in the future, but right now that's just on paper. So what we're going to present to the Planning Commission is a better thought out plan in terms of how this parcel will function, operate, and to make sure that both future buyers of this parcel, current owners, and the village is protected in the long run. So I just want to let you know that that's coming forward.
So with this, there's no, until that big piece is sold, they're the ones that will work on and change Wildlife Road, right?
That is correct. Yeah, Woodland Trail.
Woodland Trail, that's.
Yeah, Wildlife Road. That's still under the original developer's responsibility, and we still have a letter of credit outstanding for that work. The condition of that was triggered based on a % complete and development of the residential portion. Although there is discussion that they may pursue that, sometime this spring in terms of upgrades to that roadway.
We have online, there's the survey part, and then there's the part with aerial photography behind it, which pretty much shows Iron Bridge out here, the existing driveway coming in, and there's the existing parking lot. They're actually looking to sell this piece. We've asked them to add that on there. That way, 100-foot wide strip here to be able to pull in, have parking along here in case this goes away at some time.
And the 100-foot strip would also accommodate future right-of-way if need be. If that had to be dedicated for roadway purposes, it would fall within the village's widths to put a dedicated roadway facility in there that could be owned, operated by the village of Chatham. So just providing options, for the future buyers of this should something go on with the remainder of the parcel, that the parking and the existing driveway access should disappear. So a couple of other items. Glenwood Park, we've been working with the Homeowners Association, the village and the Homeowners Association for a larger culvert replacement underneath Carefree Drive in that subdivision. Agreement was made between the village and the Homeowners Association that the Homeowners Association would replace the pipe, and then the village would replace the roadway where that pipe collapsed last fall. So that is moving forward. Contractor started last week, set the remainder of the pipe today, and they'll start the backfill work and then roadway repairs here later in the week. Also related with roadway repairs, did finish the patch at Gordon Spruce at the entrance to Breckenridge subdivision. There is some additional ditching work, storm sewer work there to drain that subbase. We're working with the contractor to get back out there to finish that, but looking at options, seeing utilities out there, and making sure that we don't have a conflict with our proposed drainage plan related with the existing utilities. And then last item here is working with the village in terms of drainage related to the electrical building facility and the adjacent subdivision at Parkview. Pat, if you got a map there.
We do. Look on that other one over there.
I don't know which echo that, so.
So this is kind of been a long-standing issue, or I guess a repetitive issue for the village. I think we saw kind of the effects of how severe this is last time we had some significant rainfall last fall, in which actually access was cut off to Parkview subdivision due to the depth of flooding through that area. So, one of the things that was discussed at one time as part of the comprehensive plan is, more of a long-term fix, create some sort of a recreational pond that would provide some stormwater detention in this area. That is, some concepts have been drafted up associated with that, but, like with everything, that's a funding issue associated with making that grand scale of an improvement. I think some numbers that we threw out there, it's, with the excavation, if the village had to pay for that, hauling everything off site, improving the roadway access and everything else, you're in that $450,000 to $500,000 fee. If we found someone that needed a lot of dirt and would remove it for free for the dirt, that would be kind of a win-win situation in which, we could accommodate that. But in the meantime, there still is a drainage problem there. It's not an easy one to fix because it is water that's coming off of the farm fields from the south and the west that are all draining kind of in that northeasterly direction and ultimately get through the drainage way that goes through the park, and you see the perennial flooding in the park.
Is there and I know it would be permanent, but kind of a Band-Aid drainage situation where you could drain it, whether it be in the ditch through the park, that way, either across, well, not across, but I guess you try to go under South Main for now until we can get the funding for the $450,000 or $500,000 to dig that hole, or?
The problem with that is the size of the pipe. Currently there's a pipe along South Main that comes in and ties in where the box culvert is that goes underneath South Main and continues on through the park. To get a large enough structure underneath South Main, you're almost looking at multi-barrel box culverts or a minor bridge to get that flow through.
So you're looking at what we have in the park now, what we'd have to put in.
Very similar. To make that improvement to get the water all from one side. Because the box culverts that are there now line up with Parkview subdivision. However, the flooding is kind of short-circuiting through the subdivision, going overland and then dropping into that box culvert and then running through the park at that point. It is getting there. It's just getting there in the easiest fashion Mother Nature can provide, and that's overland at that point. There's no direct way to drain that area through a channel or a box culvert or a pipe that's going to be feasible on a small scale situation. Looking at this, we can improve some ditching through there. We can do some berming that would impound water onto the village's property to help kind of mitigate that a little bit. It'd be inconvenience to the village and the operation of that property, but flooding would be on village property more so on village property as it would be on adjacent residential properties. So it's not an easy fix. It's not a cheap fix, but looking at what our options are, working with village staff in terms of kind of a ditching and berming option there to help mitigate some of the drainage that goes through there. But in a large storm, it's going to go the way that it goes right now until some larger grand scale improvements made.
Could it go through that drainage area with the cattails, or could we not divert it that way?
We're gonna try to add a ditch here, Matt.
Okay.
And then bring that ditch up to here. There's an existing ditch here now that we cut last year or the year before that runs down and takes that water, gets it over here, then runs through this pipe, runs out, and runs across the park. If we can grab this water here and put this and get it down to here, that'll stop the water coming this direction. If any of it from in here then that comes in gets down here, we're hoping to grab it in a ditch, bring it back this way, and get it out that way. So that's our short-term solution. The long-term solution is to put some type of water feature there, be able to capture all this water, and then take advantage of it as a fishing pond or something like that, recreation. It would help with our friends in Springfield where, silt works its way into the lake, be able to capture some of that stuff. Hopefully, as it goes through the park then, it'll be open cut and we'll put the right types of grasses and stuff in there so it can naturally catch the silt and stuff. So it'll be more picturesque, but it'll also be functional.
Yeah.
So
I've spoken to Mr. Snyder at 148 Parkway. He was the one that brought this to my attention, and he did ask and would ask that the village take a look at the damage that's been done to his property as the water's flown north across that driveway there. He said it's created a little bit of a valley river thing in his backyard, and his backyard is unusable. So I said that I felt that, when looking into these improvements, that perhaps we could just take a look at it. And if we had big machinery right there creating a ditch, maybe we could dump a bucket on the other side to fill any holes that he had. Because he mentioned that he had worked with a landscaping company to try to grade the land and build a berm and maybe put in his own culvert, and that it was, quite expensive and he didn't have the money for that. So I know that Mr. Scott Schneider was very much interested in our solutions here. So my only question was, at this point, is I wanted to give the gentleman some time frames and with respect to what are we doing, when can we have it done by, just to give him some peace of mind, because he said this has been occurring for several years.
So we're working with, Shane Hill. We're going to do this work with village crews. Depending on the scope of the work, linear footage, amount of disturbance, we may need to get a permit, which is a 30-day lead time. So working with the amount of disturbance that we're going to do, soonest 30 days. Obviously try to get through the wet weather with the spring, because once you start digging this up, it's just going to be a mess all the way through. But let things dry out a little bit and then start cutting some ditches and berming up some swales, to help alleviate some of that. By all means, this is not going to be a permanent solution.
Mm-hmm.
It will impound some more of the water on village property, take some advantage of some of that depressional storage that's out there on the village as it makes its way through the remainder of the ditch system and through the remainder of the pipe culverts that ultimately drain over to the park. But until some grand scale either detention project or some conveyance project, pipes from point A to point B take place, the water's still going to be there.
No, yeah, I went on Thursday to check it out on the village property, and the water's 9-10 inches deep in that hole. There's a little pond back there with a lot of waterfowl and whatnot. But he just mentioned, his backyard's unusable and that he'd love to have some alleviation. So I appreciate you guys taking a look at it. Is it okay to share just with, I assume so?
Sure. It's
on
board
right.
docs.
Yep.
It's also on YouTube.
Yeah. Hey, Scott.
And then last item that we're talking about, with budgeting coming up, one thing that we discussed in terms of, road repairs moving forward and getting the best bang for our buck. Typically, what has happened is the street crew, they kind of did double duty. Leaf bags and, the green program took up a good portion of their time, and the remainder of the time was related or relegated to roadway repairs. There were some concerns that maybe it was too much on leaf bags and, green initiatives as opposed to roadway repairs. So now that has been contracted out, the focus is more on the roadway repairs. The problem is with the village budget, the way that it's set up is the portion of the roadway repairs for village staff, the road crew, is reimbursed through MFT as a pass-through. So any time spent by the village crew, their direct salary, the equipment, any of those costs associated with that is in MFT. So that has to be broken out into several different work items. And then that comes through as a resolution that you guys vote on every year. We're going to have another one coming up here. So the problem is once they get through a certain item, then there's no more funds associated with that item. If we have $20,000 in roadway patching and they hit 19,900 in roadway patching, they're done roadway patching. Unless we go through the whole process of going back to IDOT, reopening the maintenance warrant, coming back to the village, having the vote, going through 2 sessions, then going back to IDOT to have it approved, which is really about a month and a half long process. So one of the things that we've talked about is, well, why can't they do more, or why can't we go higher numbers? The problem with the higher numbers is anything more than $25,000 for a particular operation, individual operation, and because we can't combine operations to get a bigger project and say, oh, we're just going to do rock here, and then we're going to come back and put pavement on top of it, and then we're going to come back and put striping on it, and we're going to come back and do sidewalk. They all have to be separate. It's sidewalk patching at large. It's roadway patching at large. The problem that IDOT has with it is with the MFT funds, they want it to be spent appropriately and get the best bang for the buck in terms of the state dollars going into the communities. So anything greater than $25,000 for a certain item has to be bid. So technically, if the village wanted to do more than $25,000 worth of work for their own item, they would have to competitive bid against contractors to do work on their own property. So there's arguments on whether or not the village crews are more efficient than a contractor or less efficient than a contractor, or what those charges are, because it's impossible for them to assemble that and bid against themselves to do your own work. So one of the ways that we've worked with other communities on this is budget the direct cost for labor equipment for the municipality in the general fund associated with those costs. Anything in terms of materials then can be let as a material letting. And at that point, we say, we want 50,000 yards of concrete. And we'll put that out to an open bid. We'll have 3 different concrete companies give us a quote for that, and we will have $50,000 worth of 50,000 yards or dollars or whatever of concrete on will call that was competitively bid. It also helps dramatically from an accounting standpoint in terms of man hours, laborers, and equipment, in terms of closing out and balancing the accounts associated with doing that work. So right now, every hour that, say Barry Dees ends up working on sidewalk, he has to come in, write down that hour, how many people were there, what equipment, and everything else. Ultimately, that goes to Sherry, and that gets accounted back to reimbursement for MFT, which then goes on the closeout documents that we have to assemble, go through, give to IDOT to be audited, and then ultimately approved. If it comes back to if the village can incur the cost for the labor and equipment, for the equipment that you already own, the people that you're already paying on the general fund, then it just is, oh, we got 10 yards of concrete. Here's the bill. Here's the bill. Here's the bill. Turn it into IDOT. That's what we paid. Done. So it definitely simplifies the process, because now we don't have 4 different people or 4 different entities quantifying what those labor, equipment, and material costs are. You got your street crew doing it, we're doing it, Sherry's doing it, and IDOT's doing it, just to justify the costs that were spent. Now, the other benefit to that too is every dollar that you spend in MFT goes directly to an improvement on the roadway. You are going to see more work done in the roadways associated with that, because if you spend $1 of MFT, you're going to have $1 worth of concrete out there. It's not $1 worth, 50 cents worth of equipment, 25 cents worth of labor, and 25 cents worth of concrete. It's $1 worth of concrete. So it's a way to expand your program, eliminate kind of this duplicate accounting methodology and bookkeeping, and it's worked well with a lot of other communities that we work with. Litchfield, for example, was one. They own their own paver machine and rollers. And IDOT finally said, no, how do we know that you can pave it with the people that you're using? Because you could put 50 guys out there on your paver, bill it all to MFT, and put down 2 tons of asphalt and get reimbursed for all of it. Now, is the village getting that benefit? No, because only 2 tons of asphalt's going down, but they covered their labor. So it's a little bit of a balance back and forth, but that's something that we're working through with Pat and Shane and Sherry in terms of looking at the upcoming budget to try to spread those roadway dollars further and try to eliminate duplication of effort. So you'll probably see that coming forward, and if there's any questions or whatever, feel free to get a hold of me or Pat. So other than that, I think that's all I had.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Village manager update.
Really, the two things I just wanted to talk a little bit about was that we are starting the budget process, and we'll start going through that Thursday. Will be our first meeting. Me and Sherry and Kayla and Jill met the other day looking at the funding sources, and Shane and Vern and Dustin have been looking at their numbers and their equipment and where things are at, and we'll start sitting down and discussing that Thursday. The other item that's on your board docs is I would assume that we're going to do fireworks again this 4th of July, and this time Central State, I asked them to give us a quote for the next package up. We've run with the package around $7,000 to $8,000 for probably the last 10 years, and for to bump it up to $9,200, you get quite a few more shells, and the show would last a little bit longer. So I'd like for you guys to take a look at that, and you can kind of give me an idea sometime over the next couple weeks if you want to go along with that. We'll put together an ordinance accepting their bids and stuff like that.
Pat, I know we've talked about it, so it's so what the currently is for the 7,000, it's about 20 minutes.
It's about a 20-minute show.
And with just that little increase, would make it about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a great deal. I hear a lot of positive things from people who see the fireworks. So
I've never heard anybody say that it was a bad fireworks show.
So I think to get another 10 minutes for that is a great return on investment for the community.
Yeah, I have a slightly different opinion only because I think we could save that money and use it elsewhere. And if everybody's appreciative of the show today and they enjoy it, then no need to step it up. It's just my personal opinion, but.
I'll read it. I'm gonna look into the options.
We don't need to know today.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Anybody got any questions or anything of what's been going on the last?
I'm gonna ask a question that we talked about the other night.
Okay.
Chloramines, where are we at on that, or have you heard anything further?
I have not. I heard Hawk had come out there and taken out the piece of equipment that the park broke on. So I don't know if they've decided to go back and rebuild it or take care of everything at their facility and then bring it out, or whether they took that in and they're going to bring a new one out. I just haven't heard yet.
Are they going to give us a timeline at all? Anything?
Soon.
Stone tablet?
I think they're at the mercy of this company.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, I do know, I think tomorrow is the day they're supposed to look at doing the refinancing of the bonds.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, they were
It-
tomorrow, Thursday, and for this week, so.
Yeah, but
So we agreed to the refinancing, but working on the equipment. So.
At least the rates are about as best that they'll ever be.
yeah.
Before we get off of Pat, and speaking of stone tablets, we have a couple of stone tablets that are up here right now, and we want to take a moment to recognize Sherry. What these are, they're both from the Government Finance Officers Association. One of them recognizing the village's budget document, meeting the high thresholds the GFOA puts out for a superior budget document, with the long-range planning that's involved in it, the amount of disclosure, and the discussion on where the community is, where it's going, and what its plans are for the current year. So this was the first year that our budget document had been submitted for that award, with all the work that Sherry puts into that. We had no doubt garnered that award as permitted. And it's also, for the second consecutive year, our comprehensive annual financial report has been recognized for meeting the GFOA's highest threshold for the amount of disclosure, the amount of information that it has, going far above and beyond what's required on a basic set of financial statements to issuing a complete audited financial report that shows considerable amount of information about what the village is doing. Again, a lot of credit goes to Sherry for putting all that together and having such mastery of it. So it's important to me, I think it's important to our village that that level of dedication and that amount of information about what we're doing on a daily basis is out there now, both from the budget all the way through to the end report of where it's done. So Sherry, you certainly have our admiration and appreciation for all that you do. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Sherry.
And always, as always, all those documents are out on our village webpage under the Information Center. And in previous years also, so they're all right out there for everyone to see.
This is also where you can come give your acceptance speech, because we know that you love. So, thank you, Sherry. Much appreciated.
Trustee Detmers with the Public Property and Recreation Committee discussion.
Yes, we met last night, as Mr. Hupp mentioned, and there were a few things discussed, mostly just locations with respect to the dog park. There's some good ideas talked about, and I think Trustee Churchill and I plan to walk the couple streets, you know, the street that you live on and the street on the opposite side of the park, just to get an understanding of how the public feels about that location. So we'll share that as we gather that information. Other than that, we got an update from Dustin Patterson with village activities, and there are some stumps at the Veterans Square that they'll look to remove when the budget allows and the weather allows for the stump work. So pretty much it. Other than that, huge updates to the baseball fields from CBSI. So thank you again for that organization and their commitment to Chatham.
Any questions or anything for Trustee Detmers? Utility Oversight Committee discussion. Do you have anything on that since Chairman Berger's not here?
We meet on April 13th is our next one. It's been a little while since the last one, so nothing right now.
Lastly, Darlene, did you want to speak on the public comments discussion part?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, come on up. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm just slow.
Thanks.
I asked about the vehicle, and because it's in the budget, there's no reason to vote on it. Each one of you ran on transparency. Can you show me where the transparency is on the vehicle? If it's all in the budget, what do you guys need it up here for? That just is very irritating to me. We as citizens want to know. It's on YouTube. You know people watch it. You know people listen to it. And yet, when it comes to discussions time, you call Pat in the afternoon, or you meet Pat in his office 2-on-2 when it comes to the bonds. The people didn't find out about the bonds. They don't really know about the bonds. Just like when you were talking about the water, going to the chloramines and the company coming out to the water plant. I went to the meeting the last time. They're going to put a used system in to replace whatever it was because they can't get the part that they need to get to fix the system correctly. And that's supposed to suffice what we need. You know, this is our water, guys. I don't care. You could sit up there and say that our water is great all you want. Maybe it is for all you people that have the $5,000, $10,000 whole house water filters. My house is not great. I just had plumbing done, had new faucets put in, and already my faucet is looking terrible where the sink is. I don't have a whole house water system. So there are still issues. We just spent $10,000, $10,600 and some dollars on a water investigation for last month. The month before that, it was 10,000. I guess I need to go and add up how much it was for water investigation just for last year. It'd probably be close to $100,000. Why don't we put that 10,000 we're spending every month towards a green sand filter? It'd be better for us. I'm just irritated that you guys don't want to talk about things because the people are interested. You knew that when you went to, Trustee Charo went house to house. I'm sure that, I can't say your last name.
It's okay.
So I call you Dewey. I know Matt went. I know Churchill went. It's like, I know you guys did what you needed to do to get elected. So come on, give us some transparency, please. Discuss it. I really think that you should, I don't know the laws, but I do know that when you're saying yes, 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 yes to the vehicle, that you guys were supposed to discuss it. I'm sure it was over 25,000. I don't know how much it was. I didn't read it. But you're supposed to discuss the things. Just because it's in the budget does not mean that it doesn't need to be discussed. Come on, give us a break, please. I'm sorry, my ranting is done. I apologize.
Thank you, Darlene. Is there any other public comments on village business? Scheduled meetings, April 14th, 6:15, with the whole, and there is no need for closed session, correct, Pat?
Nope. Matt, before you finish up, one other item that, just because it's constantly in the news right now, we do communicate with our SEMA director, who is following closely any of the developments associated with the coronavirus, COVID-19. I had a few people ask me, what does the governor making a disaster declaration for the state of Illinois mean? And I'll use Trent's words because he puts it pretty well. At this point for the village, very little. What those disaster declarations do provide on a state level is it puts the state in a position where resources from the federal government and reserves and response resources that the state have become available once that declaration is issued. That provides state agencies with a special authorization and allows them, as he calls it, to lean forward in their preparations and response towards active disasters. Stresses that daily press conferences are being held by the governor and his public health officials in response for it. And it is highly suggested that we continue consulting with the county, with the state, following their guidance. And it can't be stressed enough to follow the guidance of the experts in these types of situations. We have no reported cases in Chatham at this point in time. Very few actual reported cases in the state of Illinois, but obviously continue to follow good hygiene processes, thorough washing of the hands. If you're sick, stay home and stay away from those that might be susceptible to that. So we do monitor it. We will have further discussions with the schools and with the response teams that are in the village. We keep our eye on all these as these things develop. So now I'm done.
Seeing nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.